All right, this is documentation of what is ongoing psychological torture while the state of California, in concert with the people of the state, are engaged in the demonic pattern of conduct, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. The demon possessed are monitoring, and the criminalization of this demonic behavior by a population which is simultaneously exposing what is public corruption. You are witnessing it as I document and expose literally the spiritual realm, while you can look at the demonic, the impossible presence, the manifestation of light that occurs in the dark in ways that are inexplicable with regard to the presence of the light source, that is the fake sun that is present at the same venue. And this is again tying to the conduct of the demons who are monitoring at what is exposed in this environment. It's not a private residence. It is speaking to a facilitating venue where criminal surveillance as opposed to constitutionally protected private activity is underway. And this is exposing demons who practice sexual violence, sexual acts as a community, as an entity together. And they also do so with impunity while ceaselessly engaging in what is psychological torture that is also sexually motivated. And what am I referencing? If you read the document entitled WSA-The People, which I upload every day because I remain subject to a ceaseless pattern of conduct, which is criminal monitoring. And that is, in other words, understanding what Paul Leon, the mayor of Ontario, what Mike Lorenz, the chief of police, what Alan D. Wapner, the president of the City of Ontario International Airport, these are government leaders who are demon possessed. And they are also the heads of these corrupt departments who are engaged in criminally monitoring me, the demon possessed. This is speaking to the government. That is also present while you are understanding how you are prosecuting. That this is what is inextricably tied. The pattern of conduct by the population and the pattern of conduct by the government itself. So that you are understanding what is present with regard to the entity gang stalking by the helicopters, the City of Ontario, and gang stalking in the environment, in the community, the apartment complex, the people of the state. And so this morning, this is at 1 o'clock in the morning, the entity is monitoring me in the bathroom. And based on the hostility that the demons who are engaged in criminal conduct, they are triggered as I, for example, read anything or watch any content online regarding Christ Jesus, regarding demon possession, regarding the deliverance, as Christ exercising his authority, whom he is, God in the flesh. And he's delivering people from demon possession. And as I read this context, specifically in the book of Mark, the demons are triggered. And so this is where I'm in the living room, where you're looking at all methods of impossible light. So understand that the demons are monitoring right now. But I'm speaking to what I documented because I want to make sure that you're understanding while I go to the kitchen, while I go to the bathroom, while I sleep on the couch, while I walk around inside. This is where you're understanding criminal monitoring is underway, and you recognize criminal monitoring by a government in concert with the people. You are not an individual. You do not have any constitutionally protected rights. You are the state. And the elderly who are unemployed and cannot pay their rent are in the shoes of the state, and they are triggered while they monitor my documentation, speaking very frankly and unapologetically regarding their ongoing conspiracy to murder and kidnap someone, psychologically torture that person. And while I very plainly describe their criminal conduct, their sexual perverted activity, and their entity and the entity that's engaging in obsessively monitoring me with the intent to murder and kidnap me. And because you're obsessed with my genitalia, you're triggered by that documentation. So this is where you have a demon that doesn't go to sleep, over 55 years old, has no job, and is sitting gang stalking me at 1 o'clock in the morning. And as I walk to the bathroom, that's what I documented. And this is the same environment where the fake sun and where the engineer light is appearing on Tracy Banks' ceiling and moving down her bedroom wall. Outside of this window, there is no explanation for this light activity, ever. There's no explanation for it. It's going upward also, and it's also downward through what are closed blinds, under what is a covered patio. Okay, there's no sun, and there's no sunlight that's going to ricochet off of a patio glass door. That's ever naturally happening. Remember, also, not only is this isolating the specific environment with regard to prosecuting the City of Ontario, removing demons like Alan D. Wapner, removing demons like Paul Leon, removing demons like Mike Lorenz, who are obsessively monitoring my genitalia with sex offenders whom they finance. They are financing terrorism in the state of California. This is what unemployment is going toward. This is what senior citizen Social Security is going toward, so that they can sit at home and gang gang stalk American citizens whom the entity is relying on the unemployed, relying on the grim immigrants in the state of California, relying on those who are prostituting the system, claiming that they can't go to work for one reason, but they're sitting around gang stalking me all day and all night. That's what the state is financing, and doing so in the specific environment. This is why the immigrants that are gang stalking in California, the entire state is gang stalking. Okay, this is not about racism. This is speaking to what is no respecter of persons, while Satan is using a population to engage in criminal conduct and the multiple levels of classes of gang stalkers. And they all have conflicting interests when they're all in federal court together. And those that are not even natural born citizens, they're out of this country. They are out. In addition to that, unemployment. The policies need to be revisited. These are many of the reasons why you have a deficit with regard to the so-called economic issues in this country, while the governor and everybody under his tutelage, under his leadership, are speaking to what is a system where you can't find jobs and where there's no money here, no money there. The entity is engaged in 24-hour surveillance through the means of the city airport, 24-hour surveillance through the means of the city police, 24-hour surveillance through the means of the city at large. Using all of these resources while they're funding, also paying demons to engage in criminal activity, because that's what lives in apartment number 55. That's what lives in apartments 33 through 64. Okay, while you see engineer light sitting in the this is facilitation so that the demons can more effectively gang stalk. It's an inexplicable scientific impossibility. First of all, that the sun would be at this venue like it is. It's still, not only that, not only is it still here, because you can see it through reflecting off of the patio glass door. This is a scientific impossibility. It's literally in alignment over this building at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's documented rising here at 7:18 in the morning, and I'm showing you reflecting off of that is not going to be the explanation for what is light on the ceiling. Now, I want to be clear. The psychopath is going to a mental asylum. This is literally a Tales from the Crypt, okay? This aged, liver spot covered, bleach blonde, demon possessed gang stalker, this violent sex offender who is obsessed with my genitalia. Every time I take my clothes off, every time I pull my panties down, every time I spread my legs open, because that's exactly the sexual perversion that the state of California is engaged in. And that's why you're going to hear it in such terms. Unadulterated sexual violence is what the state of California is engaged in. And they are hostile while they are documented as the sex offenders that they are. This includes Tracy Banks. This is her bedroom. This is her apartment. These are her neighbors. This is her apartment that they're flying over in helicopters in and hovering over in commercial planes. And she's not ignorant about it. This is the same demon who is on paper seeking to establish authority and exercising interest over me that she does not actually or legally have with this same corrupt government. She sought to profit, in other words, off of murdering me, which is why the state of California, why the city of Ontario, why this aged sex offending demon possessed gang stalker who needs Christ Jesus is monitoring me while I'm standing in the kitchen. Okay, standing in the kitchen, every movement that I make is followed with audible activity. This is not sunlight. This is engineered light. You're looking at the covered patios outside, so it's ricocheting, appearing inside through closed blinds, and it's also appearing underneath the covered patio outside, inside of her dark bedroom. And engineered light is manifesting. This is the pattern of keeping engineered light all over the place, okay? This is where demons who are engaging in monitoring, understand that monitoring by the entity is psychological torture tactics that a state employs while they're engaging in the process of seeking to murder and kidnap someone, trying to wear them down psychologically, wear them down mentally and emotionally, to get you in a circumstance where the entity that controls the narrative, that is Tracy Banks, that would put herself on the news so that you can see her wet face and all of her tears while she puts on the act. All right, that's the only thing persuasive is the lies that come out of her face regarding the malice with which she seeks to conspire, murdering and kidnapping her own daughter, her own flesh and blood, with the very state of California, with whom she is fully documented. Okay, there is no sun that's going to be the product of what is. Remember, I'm capturing this light activity at 9 and 8 o'clock in the morning. This is never going to be the product of light shooting through the peephole, light that's appearing in all manner of direction. This is where the demons are monitoring my genitalia. I want you to pay very close attention, and I'm talking to the federal government because the state of California is engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. It's an exceedingly violent sex offense. And while they monitor what it is that I'm typing regarding the conduct that they are engaging in, this is where you saw the entity flying over by helicopter. All right, because I was documenting on my phone regarding the fact that the city of Ontario, the state of California, is financing domestic terrorism through the unemployment. all right, through the things such as Social Security, which this aged demon who can't go to work, right, but is engaged in very highly energetic gang stalking 24 hours a day. The demon doesn't sleep. The demon doesn't move from my position. And when I move to the kitchen, that's where the demon moves. When I move to the bathroom, that's what this Tales from the Crypt sex offender did last night, which is what I documented. The moment that I enter inside of this bedroom, this bathroom, this demon crawls to be directly above me, booming on the floor. And while this demon, Tracy Banks, is sitting in her bed, this is at 1 o'clock in the morning. This is documenting sexual violence, being monitored, being subject to surveillance in a private space, is sexually perverted, sexually motivated, serving no legitimate purpose, where the government has no legitimate interest. And they are financing this method of sexual violence by the elderly. Every single last one of these demons who are living under a fake sun are fully engaged in the past. They are walking around on walkers. They're walking around on canes. They even, like, this is AVANATH Capital Management, who was going to be civilly and criminally prosecuted, gang stalking through the occupants in the apartment that the company provides to its gang stalking employees. And if they're not natural born citizens, them, like every other gang stalking immigrant in the state, they're going to be deported. Period. All right, you're looking at what is the maintenance of impossible light inside of the apartment and outside of the apartment. This is while demons are pacing, focused on me. How do you know that they're focused? Because the fake sun is focused on me. Because the engineered light, which is inexplicable on its face, is focused on me. Because the demons that are gang stalking through this demon in apartment 55 understand that this is I'm pointing by this, I mean, the demon in apartment 55, she is acting on behalf of the state. The entire city of Ontario is aware of everything that I say, aware of the moment that I pull my panties down in the bathroom, aware of what it is that I'm typing about on my phone as I document, aware of what it is that I'm doing on my laptops, everything that I'm viewing. This is speaking to the unreasonable invasion of privacy by the entity that has no warrant or probable cause, while they're also engaging in what are methods of sexual violence by aged, liver spot covered, wrinkly demons who should have no interest in my genitalia, and they do so on behalf of the corrupt, demon-possessed Mike Lorenz and the Ontario Police, who are stalking by hovering above the apartment in helicopter, which you know, because every time I open my front door, they're stalking a helicopter flying right over my head. Amplified while they're at a great distance, but yet it's amplified inside of this apartment. That's audible activity, relevant positioning, no matter how close or how far, in the engineered light, which is present day and night. Because when you see me walking outside, I show you my upright shadows moving all across the wall, just like you see now. This is impossible light activity. Okay, this is monitoring. This is the entity, again, on another day documenting this demon in apartment number 55. She's going to a mental asylum, and the demon possessed that are those employed to practice psychological torture on behalf of Mike Lorenz, a domestic terrorist leader. He is done with law enforcement. He engages in things such as pedophilia, such as rape, approving of these things, relying on these things in the sacrifice of American citizens, whom that department seeks to murder and kidnap as a corrupt department. That's why they're gang stalking me in helicopters. That's why they've engaged in a pattern of kidnapping with Tracy Banks, relying on criminal acts such as criminal defamation. This entire property, Woodside Senior Apartments, all 144 units are filled with domestic terrorists. They're all gang stalking as a property. The demons in units 33 through 64, however, are physically surrounding my person, and that's the only reason why I have isolated them, and I put that in air quotes, isolated with regard to who's going to federal prison, period. In addition to those, as I document the entity stalking by helicopter, and I get your license plate, you're going to federal prison. I get your identity, you're going to federal prison. Just like at Alvarado Gardens, just like when I'm on the freeway, and every other place where the entity is engaged in the identical pattern of conduct. All right, this is P.O.C. I want you to see this fake sun. Engineer light coming through the peephole. Engineer light in Tracy Banks' dark bedroom. There is no sunlight that's going to ricochet underneath a covered patio inside of her bedroom. That's demonic. The demons are monitoring my every move, and they like to monitor when my panties are down, when my genitalia is exposed. That's what this Tales from the Crypt demon did last night, because they don't like how I describe with truth and frankness the fact that they are perverted sex offenders. Obsessed with my genitalia and obsessed with me because they serve Satan. Those are demons that are sex offenders, and this is the fake sun over the same building at 9 o'clock in the morning. All of these elderly these senior citizens, these elderly population, they are going to be prosecuted for gang stalking. Every single last one of them. All right, and the specific environment is the evidence of it. And again, her license plate is 5WUV715. Engineer light is appearing in the shade. Recognize malice. The population is, and this demon in apartment 55 is going to a mental asylum. She's acting on behalf of the population, where a fake sun sits idle all day long. all day long. There is no light that's going to appear on your bedroom ceiling, moving across that wall on the inside. There is no position of the sun where you would ever have any light. This is designed, by the way, for shade at all times of the day. In addition to that, you're seeing it's perfectly aimed off of her patio door as I show you inside, and this is where the fake sun remains. This is where the entity is stalking me in helicopter, knowing exactly what I'm typing on my phone, knowing exactly what I'm watching, triggered by the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, triggered by the fact of being delivered from demons, triggered by the fact that they are monitoring. While you see engineered light on the grass, you see engineered light on their walls. This is the admission of the people of the state, and they're all going to federal prison. Every single last one of them. Every single last one of them. It's currently, again, 3:17 p.m. This is documentation of impunity. Oh, let's get the Ontario. Alan D. WAPNER, a domestic terrorist leader. That's amplified audible activity. Remember the engineered light flying where the fake sun is. You've seen them gang stalking me throughout the entire city. They're taking off in planes everywhere, flying adjacent to the fake sun that's stationary at this address all day long. And this is impunity by an airport that shall no longer exist. And it will be prosecuted. They are funding terrorism by keeping employees, including TSA, by the way, gang stalking at that airport. All right, every airline is going to be prosecuted for federal stalking under Title 18 as well. That's a means of crossing path and audible activity, and it enables all the rest of them because they're all monitoring as well. They're all in the path while the elements remain. That's what they're doing, by the way, in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and as I document the sex offender maintaining means of amplified audible activity everywhere I move inside of this apartment, where you see engineered light on the ceiling and you see the entity crossing path in commercial airline plane, that's the evidence shutting down the Ontario International Airport. Documented years of criminal surveillance. There will never be any sunlight that's going to come underneath a covered patio and appear on the upward portion of your wall. That's where an entity is admitting that they are gang stalking. And they are admitting it to the federal government and to the world. Alan D. WAPNER is a shameful sex offender. Okay, he's a psychopath. The same exact condition, in other words, as I'm exposing to you the mental illness of the demon-possessed. And the government is, through the city of Ontario, engaging in psychological torture. Very foolish conduct that the city of Ontario just engaged in. Again, gang stalking in planes, gang stalking through police departments using helicopters, gang stalking through the fire department, gang stalking through the people of the state. They are engaged in ceaseless psychological torture, and there is a very real criminal prosecution of a federal nature while they do so openly, which is a documentation of impunity, as you just saw that, okay? They're doing so while the fake sun remains perfectly aimed on me. A scientific impossibility. Let's be clear. It's 3:19 p.m. Daylight savings time or not, the sun would never be at the same address. Perfectly aimed in alignment, creating manifestations of light in the dark. And doing so with regard to what it is that I'm documenting. The more that I document, the crazier the light activity. The more that I document, the louder the demons get. The more that I document, the more frequently those are psychological torture tactics of an obsessed sex offender who is seeking to murder you, conspiring to murder. Psychological torture is in furtherance of that conspiracy to murder and kidnap, which is why an entity is gang stalking you. While the airport uses an airline that all of them are going to be prosecuted, everybody associated with the Ontario International Airport, they're exposing themselves, and that's impunity while they gang stalk on video. It's impunity. And they do so with the population and the elderly, who are a means of financing terrorism in Ontario and in the state. All right, they're doing so with impunity, as I document. And I just want to be clear. That demon was monitoring at 1 o'clock in the morning, because that's what you saw. When I'm up, the demons are up. When I'm asleep, the demons are up, because they're monitoring in your sleep state as well. All right, the entity is following me when I go to the bathroom. And this demon, this wretched, miserable demon, okay, that needs to be focused on her skincare and her liver spots and her blood pressure, crawls over me to be over me in the bathroom and starts beating on the floor. You need to understand, you're going to break, not only it's petty, but in the natural, you're going to prosecute that, because the police department, the city of Ontario, who you just saw provide more evidence against the people and themselves, are monitoring in a private space. That's what that legally isn't referring to, and doing so with the intent to obstruct justice. This is psychological torture of a sexual nature based on the location, based on the intent, based on the purpose, based on the mens rea. Okay, doing so while they all know that you're nude, while they all know that your genitalia is exposed, and wanting to torture you in that spot, in that state. Doing so in ways that the ordinary targeted individual cannot describe, doesn't understand, and is suffering in silence, while they're acting in furtherance of the conspiracy to murder you as a bunch of psychopathic demons, sex offenders. Okay, these are the likes that are engaging in sex trafficking, human trafficking, rape, pedophilia, molestation of children, of those that cannot protect themselves, can't speak for themselves, can't enforce their rights. They did it to a federal prosecutor, And I'm going to expose every single tactic that the demon-possessed who are a public safety concern. And you will know them by the environment that surrounds you, because there's no sun that was ever in Missouri today, because it sat here all day long. There is no sunlight that is ever at that corner, even in front of this building, not adjacent to the peephole, above the building, but you're looking at what is never going to be sunlight coming through a peephole. Not only that, for the duration of the day, piercing through the depths of the apartment. Look at the body of evidence. Never is that sunlight. This is speaking to Engineer Light, and the city airport continues to Alan D. WAPNER. These are all demons that are going to be removed, and they're exposed sex offenders. They're domestic terrorists. That goes for the fire department, the police department, the sheriff's department, the city on terror, all of these instrumentalities, in other words, where the entity is also engaged in federal stalking under Title 18, but they are engaged in criminal surveillance, and this is exposing public corruption rooted in the fact that they are demon-possessed. It is a public safety concern, because the purpose of this organized system of crime is to murder and kidnap American citizens. And this is what the government is engaging in, and financing it through the unemployed, financing it even as you're looking at the elderly. This elderly demon is highly energetic. She can go to work, and policies are going to change, because you're not going to be able to just sit at home and claim, oh, I can't do it for this and I can't do it for that, when the state is gang stalking. Gang stalking through means such as unemployment and such as retirement. All right, receiving money from the state, who was gang stalking with them. That's what is so shameful. That's what's so pathetic. And because the demons don't like how I describe them, frankly, based on what they do, what they're doing, you're triggered while you're criminally monitoring. You're triggered while you're stalking me. You're triggered while you're spying on me. That's P.O.C. It's currently, again, 3:23 p.m. The demon is engaged in what is ongoing impunity, and it's imputed to the whole entity. Every gang stalking immigrant in the city of Ontario is going to be prosecuted, because they're gang stalking as a city. Just like when you go in on a crime, robbing a bank with your partner, it's the same. The elaborate and expensive and far-reaching crime of federal group stalking and monitoring, they will all be prosecuted based on the evidence that I continuously document. That includes the AVANATH capital management. They shall compensate for the harms precipitating from that which they engage in and from that which they're profiting from, and which under no circumstances will be tolerated. You are responsible for what's happening on your property. You're responsible for what you're profiting from as it's underway on your property, and your interest claiming that you don't know is insufficient, because an American citizen's life, safety, and well-being is at risk. And moreover, the entity is engaged in a malicious system, and AVANATH is a gang stalker in Irvine, California. The state is gang stalking. All right, it is currently 3:24 p.m. This is P.O.C. I want you to see the fake sun here, in alignment to me, where the entity is shown to be everything happening in that environment is evidence of what is gang stalking, as you understand the elements. Contrary to the malice of the entity, thinking that you could never draw any conclusions, reasonable conclusions, that anyone is ever going to listen to or entertain because you're merely flying in the sky space. That is the short-sighted and intellectually inept demon-possessed who did not anticipate Christ Jesus himself exposing Satan by name. All right, it is currently 3:25 p.m. This is P.O.C.